Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham. It's Thursday night. It's time for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. Well, we're getting pretty deep into December now. Still plenty of rugby. I am going to miss the international rugby, which ended last week. But we've got the start of the Heineken Champions Cup that we could talk about on tonight's show. We've also got the Challenge Cup. Probably not going to chat too much about that, other than the fact that the bookies don't seem to enjoy this event because they price up pretty late for it. And then we do have 3 Currie Cup fixtures, which we're definitely not used to at this time of the year. Well, I'm pleased to announce I've got a top-class panel joining me to see if we can find some betting value. And I'll start off at the top there with Chris or Frank. Frank, good to have you on the show. It's been a couple of weeks, but great to hear your voice again.
Yes, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. As you said, for us in the north, ERC and Challenge Cup are big competitions. So looking forward for this week. Mentioned that as well. Few crowds back in UK on the stadium as well. So a bit of a positive news. So good weekend of rugby ahead of us. So yeah, thanks for having me back, Brent. Always a pleasure.
Excellent. Well, I'm certainly hoping South Africa follow that lead. I was watching the Liverpool game the other night, and I don't know, probably also only a couple of thousand people in the stadium, but even just those few people made such a difference. Although I did find it quite amusing that the couple of thousand people seemed to be all cramped together in the stadium, which I thought was a bit strange. I thought they might spread them out a little bit more. And let's go down to the bottom. It's at the Crow Tips. That's Chris Rowe. Chris, good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, Brent, great to be back. Good to see you again. Yeah, loads of rugby to get through, and yeah, looking forward to it. Can you guys? Can you hear me? I can't.
Am I there, boys? Sorry, everyone. It looks like my Wi-Fi is playing tricks on me. Can you guys hear me?
No, it's fine. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't just me.
No, sorry. It was actually it looked like it was my Wi-Fi, guys. I think I'm back now. If it goes again, I'm going to have to change connections. But anyway, we can get into the action. If I do get knocked out here, please just carry on talking. That's one thing you guys might complain. You don't get the points lines early overseas. Well, I can tell you, you come to South Africa, you can complain about our Wi-Fi, that's for sure. Just before we get going, welcome to all the guys in the live chat. Mark saying Champions Cup is here again, and then rightly pointing out that I have frozen. So apologies for that. That definitely was my connection. Hopefully I'm okay now. But boys, we're going to start off with a bit of Currie Cup action. And I'm going to, I think Friday night's game, I'm wearing the top of Western Province. I thought Henrik not on the show tonight. I better wear a Province top. And I was having a look at the handicap. And let's start with you, Chris, down at the bottom there. Western Province minus 23.5 against the Pumas. Have you studied up on this one?
Yeah, well, actually it opened up at around 25, and I placed my first stake on that, my first bet of the week. So on the plus 25, that is. So I was pretty happy with that. It's interesting teams. Some changes in both. What I am expecting though is, Province have lost their last 2 games. I expect them to be coming back really hard and probably smelling blood against the Pumas. But the Pumas, they've proven themselves to be doggy, getting stuck in there. But certainly at home, Province will be too strong. But I would say Province would hold them out to actually see the Pumas getting some points there against Province. So I think that will close up that handicap, I think. So I'm quite okay with the plus 25.
Excellent. Well, welcome to John Owen joining us from Texas. So it's probably, we've got a lot of guys who watch in Europe and a couple of maybe in Australia and New Zealand watch the recording. So great to have an American from Texas on as well. John, I wonder if rugby, I know they try and push it a bit in America. I wonder if it'll catch up there, because if America, I've always said, put their minds to rugby, they'll have one hell of a national side. And every now and again, they do threaten to do just that. Let's go to the top. And Frank, what are your thoughts on the opening Currie Cup match?
It's not my best game on the card, I have to say. I'm really struggling to to get my hand on that Pumas team. To be fair, I think I'm pretty lot of people I think got lost money against them last week. I think with the Greek house, I was seeing a lot of Greekers bets going almost everywhere on social media. I mean, a lot of changes in this team, and I mentioned that I think on the forum. Some of the players actually I don't even know who they are, so it's a bit tough for me to call that out. Western Province, a lot of changes as well. Like a couple of injuries as well happening. A relatively tough one. I think I was. If I would have to put a gun on my head, I would probably also go with the Pumas Plus, because I don't expect them to get that hammered by Western Province, but a tough one to call for me. So I'll probably have a look in live. Maybe look for a slow start from Western Province. They have a couple of big guns on the bench as well, so they may do some damage in second half. Again, depending on how the game shape up, but nothing really out of the park for me, if I can say that, on that game. So I'll follow Chris view here.
Yeah,
Chris,
I think a few of the other guys.
Sorry, the total points line here, I just see on SpreadX, looking at one of the overseas sites, 54.5 here, Province against Pumas. It obviously is a nighttime kickoff, and those tend to be a little bit low scoring, but 54.5, you've got a view there?
Yeah, that actually was at 56 not too long ago. So I think some punters have already spotted that and got onto that. Look, I'm a natural overs punters, and I'm a natural Province fan, and I want to see Province put the Pumas away and put 50 points past them, and Pumas maybe sneak in a few tries at the end or make it go over. That's how my mind sees it. But if I look at the trends and how the games are going, Friday night Newlands, I've been many Friday nights at Newlands and gone to sleep at 8 o'clock because it's boring. So I probably see something like that. This is not the strongest Province side we've ever seen. So Pumas have heart, and they will probably put up a good fight.
Right, well, welcome to Mark and Fire Rat as well, who suggests the 23 points is quite large. And here's our Dragon supporter, Jules. And unfortunately, Jules, we don't have Dave on the show. I'm sure he'll be watching it on Facebook, either on the recording or live. But I think Dave could have eaten a bit of humble pie, because Jules' side, the Dragons, who he described as a pub team, have now won 2 games in a row. So well done to your team there as well. And the sporty lad joining us, I'll bring up his comment now, because we're going to be talking about that game. He's actually watching on Periscope, most likely through Twitter. So that's the game. I must admit, you see me wearing my Province shirt. I am leaning towards Western Province here, but this will be a game of points lines for me. 54.5 total points. May not get involved, but I could be looking at a Province overs play. I do have a feeling that Western Province are going to click, and perhaps Chris and I'll be shouting them home together. Let's move on to the next Currie Cup game then. And I'll start off with you, Frank. This one is taking place on Saturday. And the Free State Cheetahs up against the Golden Lions. Now, the bookies can't find much between these sides. I actually priced this one at +3.5 Cheetahs. I see at Sunbet we got +1.5. I know there was some choice available early, but that's the sort of region we're talking in there. Is this one of your bigger fancies of the weekend?
So I may go against the crowd here. I actually back up the Cheetahs on that one. Few reasons. First, I'm still not convinced by the Lions. Honestly, they got a win against Western Province, but I think it's more like Western Province lost it last week. I was with the Lions. I was happy with that, but I honestly got myself lucky on that bet, I guess. Still not convinced with Lions. Few rotation in their team. I mean, all respect, but Duplessis starting is not for me, is more a coach now than a player. So if the conditions stay relatively dry, I think in Bloemfontein, which again there's potential a bit of storm forecast, but I hope it's going to stay dry. I'll be more with the Cheetahs. I mean, I was looking at the lineup as well. They get back few injured players. I think Malcolm Yar is starting. You have Skuman as well, number 10 playing. They probably are going to suffer a bit on the front 8. I think the Lions will get their hand on this one. They've lost a couple of players. The Cheetahs, a couple of injuries as well. So I rank the Lions pack a bit stronger than the Cheetahs one. But their backline is there. The backline is there. We all know that the Cheetahs, when they play home at Bloemfontein, they are always a tough team to play. I'm more leaning toward the Cheetahs on that one, even if the form is not there. I think it's probably my bet on this one.
Excellent. Well, it sounds just the way you described it. It does sound like a tough betting heat, this. And I have to agree with you. I must say I was early on, as I say, leaning towards the Lions because I did make them 3.5-point favourites on the Good for the Game forum. Just realised I forgot to put the link to the newsletter and the Good for the Game forum under the show. I'll do that when I edit it afterwards. If you are watching a recording, you'll find that. But otherwise, go to goodforthegame.co.za. Go to our rugby forum thread and you'll see a link to the newsletter there as well in the top. But Chris, let's get your views on this one. A very, very tight game. Are you in the Cheetahs or the Lions camp?
Yeah, absolutely tough one. But I'm also with Frank there. I'm leaning towards the Cheetahs. Yeah, it goes against the form. But why I'm saying Cheetahs? I like Cheetahs at home. They are always a much stronger, different team when they're there. I think for me, the Cheetahs are one like when the Bulls started the season. They play well, but they don't put 80 minutes together. And I think they're at a point where they really got to start winning now anyway if they want to stay in this competition. Lions have the form, but I think Cheetahs could have their number on the day. I see Roscoe Speckman's out, and I think he could be a 10-point difference when he's playing well as well. So I think that could be a miss for the Cheetahs. But saying that, also actually when looking at this game, I was all about the overs. I was expecting, would have expected a high-scoring game, but now I see that there's a storm approaching that sunk my heart there. So it took me away from. I'll have to wait till the weather conditions because I'll be on the overs most definitely if the weather is dry. But I haven't bet yet. But if I was to bet, I would be saying the Cheetahs will win this game.
Yeah, I always say if only we could get a couple of viewers in Bloemfontein, you could give us a nice update there on the weather. But we'll have to find a couple. But yeah, weather very important if you're betting on the point. On the go games. Yeah. Sorry, Chris.
Well, Brent, just for example, last week the Bulls' points line was 28, and it was weather predicted, right? And for me, if that was dry, that was 10 points shy, and the game was at 47. And I was, waiting 5 minutes before I saw the sun shining in the warm up, and the guys were saying the storms have passed. And yeah, I nailed the points overs Bulls, and it was it came in by a mile. That's very important. I think this game is the exact same dynamic. If the bookies are coming in low, potentially because they have been low in weather, I would look to be going overs if there's no rain about and stay away from the result.
Well, I could tell you last week I was on unders. I took an unders double Loftus onto the Lions game because I live in Joburg, not far from Pretoria. And I could tell you there was rain the night before and through the day. And I was actually quite amazed that conditions were as good as they were there. Unfortunately, that double loss, but I can report for the guys who are wondering how I went to the poker tournament last week, won it. Cleaned up, absolutely got the baby there. So very, very happy about that. Came away with some nice wins that more than covered my loss there on the rugby in that game. But guys, I'm going against you. I like the Lions to win the game. I look for the best price on the board. I see 17-20 at World Sports Betting. And I think the Lions are going to beat the Cheetahs on Saturday. Chris, we'll stick with you. Oh, sorry?
Yeah, that's the right form. So not a bad pick.
Yeah, Sharks against the Bulls. Chris, here we've got virtually a choice game as well. We've got the Sharks slight underdogs. I see at plus 1.5 at Sunbet. I did see Thoughts on Sports suggesting the Sharks 14-10 for the win. Just want to have a look at what price they are. World Sports Betting a little bit less than that, just under 12-10. But if you shop around, you can probably get 14-10. What's your feelings on this one? Sure.
This one has been a headache for sure. I mean, the Sharks I think they've got one of their strongest sides out there since the beginning of we started playing rugby. I think Arm is huge, having him back. I think Nkosi is a superstar. He's dynamic. He's brilliant. I think the forwards, I mean, you're probably good at JJ Padamesh maybe being there, but he's on the bench. He'll be on anyway. Against the Bulls team, that to me is the best team, best coach team, top of flying at the top of the log and should win. And so I haven't bet again, and it is I want to say that, with the way the Bulls are playing, the way they coached, I think Jake White's coaching, it reminds me of like an Australia versus Springbok side match like 10 years ago where Australia come and they got some flair and stars, but Jake White and the Springboks and this Bulls side just wear you down, and eventually get the win. But this is the best chance for Sharks to win. I also noticed that I think Sharks have a really good record in the Currie Cup against the Bulls, and Bulls have a really good record against them in the Super Rugby. So this is a home game, a Currie Cup game, their strongest team. Bulls might be coming thinking a little bit complacent because they are far ahead. They've made some changes, so I'm going to go Sharks.
Sharks for the win there. You can get about 12 to 10. So interesting. The sporty lad, he's watching on Twitter at the moment. He says Bulls minus 1.5 are his bet for the weekend. So interested, Frank, on your views on this one?
So Sharks was my early bet. Basically, I was hoping for the returns. I think they were here. I'm slightly less confident looking at the lineup. I think they're especially with I think the Bulls bench is definitely stronger than the Sharks one. That's probably what worries me a bit. But I think the Sharks. They are always better when they are underdog. On this one, people favor the Bulls. I'm always having an headache betting on the Shark when they are favorite because they always disappoint me. But when they are underdog, in general they show up. I think it's a big game for them, big rivalry. I think they'll match, or I think they won't get completely hammered by the Bulls pack. They have a couple of big names, a couple of experienced guys that I think will hold the fort here. Plenty of experience on the back line. I agree with Chris. Return of the captain is huge. Not a big fan of Liebach, but the rest of the backline is relatively strong. I think I'll go for them. I'll favor the Sharks, not with a mega strong confidence. Obviously, it's hard to oppose the Bulls during the Currie Cup. They've proved us wrong and me wrong several times. But look at them. They got lucky against Western Province. They should have lost this game. To be fair, it's more like Whippy just really didn't manage to close it. They've been dominating, but I think I wouldn't be surprised really to see the Sharks win that one, and that's where my pick goes.
I actually think this could be a big unders game. I think this could end up being quite a tight thug match. I think Bulls will be there. Sharks are going to be up. Bulls are going to be strong, and I think it's going to end up being a night game. And again, a night game in Durban could be muggy. I think this could be a big unders game as well. So a few penalties and 1 or 2 tries.
Yeah, I'm sweating here in my study. I can tell you it's hot here in Johannesburg, but we don't have the sort of humidity they get there in Durban. And I know the boys are all they're all hoping for a points line, probably around about 46.5, 47.5, and they'll be climbing into unders. Anything more, and they'll be mortgaging the house and accessing Oracle's granny's pension for that one. So unders would definitely be the play there. Lads, let's move on to the Champions Cup. I know a lot of the guys in the live chat are also looking forward to this. It's a great tournament and very well timed that it starts just after the sort of internationals are finishing, and just when you think there's going to be a bit of a letdown, we've got some real quality rugby. And what I want to do is I'm going to run through the games. There's obviously a lot of games this weekend. If you don't have any fancy, just pass. We'll move on. And then the games that you guys do want to discuss and chat about, we'll go through. I must be honest, I have looked at the Currie Cup, and by the way, I'm on the Sharks as well. I like them as well. So the sporty lad, you're taking on the panel there in that particular game. But I'll be listening very carefully to your views on the other games. And Chris, I'll start with you. We got Friday night, 7:30 kickoff South African time, the Northampton Saints against Bordeaux. And this is a tight one. We've got, in fact, Bordeaux slight favourites on the board here against Northampton. Chris, you there? Have I been lost or is he lost? Can you hear me, Frank?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you want me to start on that one?
Let's
start with you there. Northampton Saints against Bordeaux.
Chris, if you want to start, you can. Otherwise, I'll pick it up.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, and I know we disagree on that one with Chris because we had a bit of early chat. So you have to know that I'm a big Bordeaux fan. That's my home team. Probably the team I favor the most. In the northern hemisphere. So I'm a big Bordeaux fan, and that's why I'm playing Saints plus today. So I took an early 3.5 plus on the Saints. I think the handicap has probably melted a bit. I think at 1.5 at the moment. Few reasons. First of all, I think the Saints are playing with a relatively strong team. Yes, they are not in great form in the Premiership, but they get the international back. The lineup is quite strong. The lack of plenty of experience. Big Gary is back. Courtney Lowe is back. They were very close to winning Bristol last week. It was one of my big bet on the Saints plus last week in Bristol. They should have won that game. Just stupid mistake at the end. Plenty of experience. I know they'll target this competition because in Premiership it's going to be tough for them. And I think the team is pretty strong. The bench is good. A lot of experience. They welcome back the 2,000 fan on the stadium. None of big stuff, but it's going to be a bit of an impact on the game. Relatively wet condition, so I don't expect a very open and running game of rugby. Friday evening. England type of weather. And then, Bordeaux is struggling this year. They have a good squad, but they have a pretty bad injury toll. Jalibert is on the bench. He got a pretty nasty knock. I'm not sure he will play a lot on Friday. They play with Botica Luku 9-10. It's definitely not the most sexiest 9-10 pairing they have. It's a bit slow type of rugby. Yes, the Argentinians are back, but the guys have to travel. They are going to get jet lag. They are starting because they are lacking of player. So it's a relatively good team of Bordeaux on paper, but a couple of names that worry me. They don't play with the top hooker. They play with the third choice in hooker. So it's not a big fan of Lamotte. So yeah, I think the Saints pack is going to be up for the task here, and I fancy them simply to win the game, and that's why I took the plus here.
Right, well, Chris, you've come in just in time at the end of the first game. You're having some technical difficulties there. We'll just check that you're with us. But the Saints up against Bordeaux.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm on the same lines there as Frank. I originally was on Bordeaux. If anyone knows or follows me in some forums, I've had no time for the Saints the whole year, but I'm at this point, I'm going to give them the shot. It's not a heavy confident one, but I think they do a big performance. I do quite like their team. I think they got some dangerous players in there. So do Bordeaux, but I think at home, Franklin's Garden, it's time for the Saints to shine now. They've been poor, but I just think maybe at home this time round. And so I'll probably put in some money on a plus. If it's not on the line handicap, maybe on a parlay on a plus with them, with some other game.
Right. Well, we'll stay
and a British ref.
Sorry, Frank.
A British ref as well, which can always favor the English side from a Frenchman. We have a ton of experience with that. If you've seen the beautiful England-France on the Autumn Nation Cup final, you know what I mean. So
let's not talk about that one. France feeling absolutely robbed there. Chris, we'll stick with you for Ulster against Toulouse, and here we got a plus 4.5 for home team.
Yeah, another cracking match, isn't it? I like that Toulouse team. I really do. When I looked at the teams, when I look at them side by side, I'm like, this Ulster team's not going to live with Toulouse. But then Ulster, if you're looking at it today, Ulster have a great record at home. I believe Kingspan is going to have fans. That's what if I heard correctly. Ulster have a really good record at home against French sides. I'm not sure why Intermac's playing 12, I believe, not 10, which is a bit strange. So all of that considered, I believe Ulster are going to win the game. But if I was going to take the cap, I'll be on the plus Toulouse. I'm sure Ulster are going to play well, but I think that Toulouse have enough weapons. And if they're riding on the French and international team momentum, I think the French sides might actually be better than we expect this first round as well. Tight game, low scoring maybe as well.
Low scoring. I see Toulouse here, Frank. They are favourites here at Sunbet at 4.5 points. Which way are you heading?
Oh boy, it's a tough one. It's probably the must watch game of the opening round. It's very hard to oppose Ulster right now because they are the informed team as well. In the Pro 14. They are firing everywhere. They were also less impacted than other teams, with the international break. So they have a bit of team chemistry. The guys have played together. But this Toulouse lineup as well is quite strong. The big guns are back. They have a strong pack, probably a bit stronger than the Irish one. It's almost their best. They're one of the best possible starting 15. So again. Which form will be the players coming back? There were a couple of people picking up injuries. It's a very tough one. I will have a look at the under as well, because I'm seeing that as a potential relatively close game. But if I will probably go for Toulouse win without strong conviction, but I will not play the handicap on that one for Toulouse. If they win that one, it may be very close. So it's more Ulster plus or Toulouse on board. But
I thought Toulouse plus.
No big conviction here. I think it's a game to watch, and it's going to be a cracker. That's what I can say.
Well, Jason, not very complimentary about the Pro 14 teams. Bar the Irish are, well, we won't say the word, but thanks thanks for that, Jason. Right, let's go on. Frank, I'll stay with you there. The Bristol Bears up against Claremont. This to me also has the makings of a cracking game. And once again, a very tight one with the bookmakers. I've got Sunbet open here, and I've got Bristol Bears narrow underdogs at +1.5. But, I mean, this is virtually a choice match according to the books.
Yeah, and another tough one to call. I think these games are harder to predict because the lineup will be only released tomorrow, and there are a couple of players on the Bristol slide which are brackets. They are still missing players. Bad injury. Radradra won't play. He was injured with Fiji. He won't play. Tucker is still missing, but they are also welcoming back a couple of very good players like Shedi. I expect Randall as well to start. So this is going to be a good running rugby. My very good friend Andrew Brace is referring that game, which is definitely not very welcome news in Claremont. I can tell you, I've been on their forum; they are all pissed off. But Claremont has been relatively solid, but it's a difficult one. But I will still probably go for Bristol win here. They play home. They are a very well coached team. So a lot of people will look at the player they are missing, but I'll say, look at the player that are playing, because they do have relatively depth in the squad. I call them a bit the Exeter 2.0 now, not the same level of depth, but, they start building around that. It's going to be a tough one. But, I still believe Bristol is favorite here, even with a couple of key players missing, the guys on the pitch will be there.
All right, Chris, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I got no thoughts. I'll one game I'd interested to watch, but I have no idea where this one's going. I'll be honest with you.
No, that's fine. Let's move on to the next game, and we'll stay with you. Bath up against Scarlets, and here we got a bit of a handicap. We got Bath -10.5, and I did see some post on the Good for the Game forum about this. I've been so busy today, I didn't get a chance to get my head around it, but I gather there was some team news, and I think the guys started moving in on Bath. I'm not sure. I might get that wrong. Yeah. But what do you think at the current line?
Well, that was my second bet of the week, was Bath -8. When it came out and I looked at it, even before the teams came out, for me it was a bit of a mismatch. I think Bath at home, again, European rugby, they haven't started that well to the season, but I just think they're going to have way too much power for Scarlets. They are going to be missing a few players, I believe. I think Preston's out. The Glanville might be out. There are a few injury concerns in who may play 10, but I think they had these injuries early against Worcester on the weekend as well, quite early on, and they managed to put Worcester away quite easily. And if you have to ask me, Worcester could probably beat Scarlets as well. So for me, this is a bit of a mismatch, and -8 looked very strong for me. So I hit the -8 quite hard, and I was glad to see it move out, that I was on the right lines there.
Right, Frank, you in agreement on the Bath minus?
I do. It looks like we agree on a couple of games. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not, but I'll go with the Bath minus. I think 10 start to be strong, a bit higher handicap, but I think the 8 was a good call. But Scarlet is the thing, missing 4 or 5 international players, so not returning. Again, they've been struggling a bit in Pro 14. Bath has been also struggling, but Bath is really welcoming, the couple of very, very key players for their team. They have a point to prove. They have been trashed, hammered by Exeter recently. They've not been in great. They lost against the Falcons. They a lot of noise and criticize, from the fan, because it's still a top team. There were some almost top 4 to 5, in English team. They do have a strong squad, strong bench, way stronger pack than the Scarlet. They'll simply scrum them all over and roll them all over. I was looking at the weather. It seems that surprisingly it won't rain in Bath. Not sure if it's my app telling me, having fun of me, but it looks like it's going to be a sunny December Saturday in Bath. So, on dry condition, I think it's going to be Bath all the way, this one.
But we'll stick with you then for the next game, Frank, and go on. It's Toulon against the Sale Sharks. Now, the Sale Sharks, they were Dave's best bet last week on the show in the Premiership, and they did arrive. I think they won by 11 points in the end against London Irish. They now go in. They've obviously got to travel to France, and they're plus 6.5 points here in France.
Yeah. So again, we'll need to have a look at the lineup. But the Sharks, the English version of them, are also quite hard team to understand this year. They've been disappointing in a couple of games. They haven't been that convincing so far. They lost their coach this week. Big stuff. So it came out of nowhere. So it's being a not sure how it's going to impact the team, but bringing a bit of uncertainty. And Toulon is actually on the rebirth side. They've played very good rugby this year. They have plenty of experience. A couple of players that are stepping up, like the of Carbonell that has played with the French team in Twickenham last week. Very strong pack as well. So it's the Sharks won't muscle them, up front. They'll play in Mayol. They're happy to be back in the Champions Cup. I'm not sure if I will go with the handicap, but I can't see Toulon losing that one.
Right, Chris, come in on that one, please.
Yeah, no big feels to me on this one. I'll stay out of this one. Who knows what Sale will bring to the party. Right,
moving on then, Chris, and staying with you. Montpelier up against Leinster. Leinster, of course, dominant in the Pro 14, but they're going to this game away at Montpelier as favourites. They're minus 7.5.
Yeah, I'm looking into this game. I haven't bet because it's quite a juicy game on paper. Leinster are great, right? They are an awesome side. I haven't seen much of Montpellier this season. That's why I probably don't have a strong view, except that I really like Leinster because I've liked what Leinster have done. I haven't seen what Montpellier have done. So if I'm looking at it, I haven't bet, but I would be probably on the Leinster camp if I was to bet. But I have no strong feelings just yet.
Frank, have you got any firm views on this one?
It's a tough one here again. I think there's a bit of damage on the Leinster squad, after the intentional window. But they also have a huge depth. Their B team was winning 20 plus each single games during the top 14, having something like 15 or 16 international players in international duties. Montpellier is in trouble this year. They are definitely in transition year. They are changing a bit their style, so obviously less foreign players. They are building on some kind of new generation of players, quite promising, I have to say. But I think it's going to be a bit too early. Leinster is definitely all in on the ERC. I see them winning this game, especially without the crowd, in Montpellier. I'll probably go on the Leinster minus here. Not a great confidence, and depending on the lineup, but it's Montpellier is struggling this year, literally struggling. They are just on top of the relegation battle, nothing more.
I must say, the way you guys are talking on this game, it looks like, and looking at some of the comments in the live chat about the Leinster injuries, it could be one to avoid. I'm going to stay with you, Frank. We're going to go to the next game. Newport Gwent Dragons up against the Wasps. The handicap here is 9.5. And I'll bring up this comment of Jules, the big Gwent Dragon supporter. They're going for 3 in a row. I think Mark Dumphy said the last time this happened was in 2005. Well, they are underdogs to make it 3 in a row. They're 9.5. But Jules saying that there was actually some early money for the home team here, Frank, and the handicaps come in. What are your views on that?
So I think the handicap was released at 12.5. I was aiming on that one, but then it melted on quickly on 9.5. The Dragons are not the joke team they were. To be fair, they bought a couple of good players. They have some experienced player. They play some decent rugby. It makes sense. They won in Glasgow last weekend. Again, there was the B team of Glasgow missing a couple of key players due to international duties, but still, they were quite consistent. They have a couple of players that have good footies as well. It's a decent team. It's a decent team. Wasp, wow! I mean, Wasp as well. It's not the Wasp team that we saw as well over the past few weeks. They are also welcoming a few players back, but I still believe they are not yet in the new season. I think they had a long one, last one. I think the guys are really, but mentally a bit tired. They were beaten by the Falcons, like everyone so far this year. But at home, it was a big disappointment, and still their team on paper was good. So probably go with the Dragon Plus, but I'll not put my mortgage on this one.
Right, Chris, I saw you were eager to get involved on this one.
Yeah, no, I was one of them on the first on the plus 13 for sure. Got on that train. The Dragons have broken my heart many times over the years, but I'm just looking at this game. It looks like they're definitely on the rise. They're at home. They're back in after a while. Wasps have, as Frank said, haven't started the season. I expect them to be stronger, but I think 13. I'll take the 13 points. And a little bit of not a fantasy bet, but I was happy, more than happy to take it by what I've seen in these two teams so far. So go the Dragons. Let's get it. That was my third bet of the week that I placed, and then I saw it move as well. So I thought good that I got on that early as well.
I see you quite like following you on Twitter. You quite often like to take 2 or 3 short prices into sort of like a treble. Take a bit of insurance, maybe not go for the line, but take the 6 to 10 or even the 9 to 20 shot and put it all together. You quite enjoy that?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, that is definitely the most successful strategy for sure. Obviously, I'm very confident I will go on the line. But for instance, like the Ireland-Scotland game last week, I went high on the handicap. I remember I was confident the plus 10, and there was rain scheduled for that match. So that brought in, that made me even more confidence. But then as the game got closer, and I hadn't really publicized those bets yet, the rain hadn't arrived. So I bought some insurance there on the plus 16. The rain didn't arrive, and for sure it was 14 points in the end. So the bet got home, but that's the type of strategy that I like to play, unless I'm super confident. But I quite enjoy the try scorers and the 1 to 12s, which there seem to be a lot of games this weekend with that market in play. So I might put some of those together this weekend as well.
Right. Well, let's stay with you on to the next game. Edinburgh up against La Rochelle. And here we got the French team actually favourite at -3.5.
Yeah. I love La Rochelle. They're my favorite French team. I've always enjoyed them playing, watching them play. I like the Saints. Edinburgh I have no time for, so I'm all over La Rochelle for this game. I know there are people talking that Edinburgh at home, solid, probably getting guys back. La Rochelle, they probably might be difficult to beat, but when I look at the matchup and I look at how it's gone over the last season or two, I will be taking. I haven't put money down on it, but I'm calling out now for La Rochelle for the win, and I see them actually winning by like 10-15 points. But that's my personal, probably subjective, biased view. But in terms of money, still thinking about that one. But that will be that's how I view the game going. I think La Rochelle do actually win quite comfortably.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of La Rochelle as well. Frank, what do you make of this handicap, 3.5 points?
So actually, we may disagree. So I also love La Rochelle. If you guys have to pick up one stadium to go to France, but buy tickets before because it's almost impossible, go to La Rochelle. Absolutely amazing atmosphere, lovely city, good rugby team. It's just plus. Again, I'll wait for the lineup because I'm still not 100% convinced La Rochelle is really going to prioritize Champions Cup this year. They are very good card to play on the top 14. In France, very good start, a relatively strong team. It's going to be a rainy evening in Edinburgh, so this is going to be an arm wrestle. The Scottish pack is going to be there. Most of the guys I was checking the injuries, they should be free of injuries, so going to be a different Edinburgh outfit than the one we saw previously. Again, probably British type of refereeing as well, so I'll even 3.5 could be a relatively big handicap on that kind of low scoring game. So I'm I'm aiming toward Edinburgh Plus on this one, so I'll disagree with both of you on this one. But again, I'll have a look at the La Rochelle team and see exactly what they propose and what their ambition in these competitions. But the weather, the rain, Saturday evening match in Edinburgh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
If it's raining, that game's not getting my money. That's fine. Absolutely not. That could be a messy affair. You're right. So I'll probably be staying out of it, but I'll be rooting La Rochelle home.
Yeah, one thing about these French teams, you've always got to watch them if they're away from home. If they start off well, that's great. But if they happen to lose, get a try or two behind, then they do sometimes drop their heads on that. So, yeah, interesting to see the team selection and also the weather on that one. I think Edinburgh, if I'm not mistaken, do play on an artificial pitch. But at the end of the day, rain is rain. And if it's really wet, it's still difficult to handle. Let's stay with you, though, Frank. We'll go on to the next game. It's Lyon up against Gloucester. And here we got the French team, quite big favourites, minus 11.5 at Sunbet.
Yeah, so Lyon is playing good rugby this year. I mean, they have been consistent over the past few years, but they haven't performed very well in Heineken Cup. Again, is this competition their priority this year? It's another question mark. Their target is a top 14. I don't think they have the depth and the ambition to be on both competition. But if they go with their best teams, it's definitely a cap they can cover. They have a very solid team, strong pack, very good back line. Very tough team to crack at home. So again, conservative say, but if they go with their best team, I think the handicap can absolutely be broken here. Lyon is strong. Gloucester is being up and downs. Again, let's see if Cyprian is going to play or not. It's being a bit disappointment over the past few weeks and even months. So I'll see. But I think the Lion team is better. It's definitely better.
Right, Chris, your views on this one?
No strong views, so I'm sticking out of this one.
Right, then we can stick with you and move on to the Exeter Chiefs up against the Glasgow Warriors. And not surprising here, the Chiefs, they seem to start massive favourites in virtually every game they play. And I can see here minus 22.5 points, the Chiefs, Chris.
Yeah, I think, I'm going to have to say what I've seen from Glasgow. Again, I'm sure they are getting play. Again, we don't have teams, but teams are going to be important, I think, for this one. I'm sure they're going to bring in their strongest teams, you would imagine. But Glasgow have been awful, haven't they? So I'm quite confident Exeter will cover that minus handicap. If anyone follows me, so I'm not a massive minus handicap at all anyway. But this Exeter Chief are champs, right? And this Glasgow team have not been strong. So I quite like Exeter minus. I might even be looking at some Exeter team points as well and some tries markets when they come out.
Right, Frank, I mean, you and I were just talking on WhatsApp earlier in the week. We were talking about what we're going to cover tonight, and you were saying the problem with the Champions Cup is, of course, that we won't have all the team selections by the time we talk. So that's why I guess we have to take a view on what sort of team these guys are coming out with. What are your thoughts on this one? 22.5, it's a big cap, but Chris suggesting that it may not be big enough. And my experience is often a big cap can be made to look very small very quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's I've lost a lot of money on against Exeter last week. I was on the Leicester Plus. They were leading at the halftime, and then they got completely hammered at the end. So I still haven't processed that match. But I mean, Exeter will win. The question is by how many points? They'll target a bonus point win. No question, they'll get a bonus point win. I don't see how it's possible. They'll completely destroy Glasgow everywhere on the pitch. Just the weather seems to be absolutely horrible in Exeter on Sunday. It's my app is showing me really like a big rain. But Exeter knows how to play on the rain. That's probably one of the best team with that. This is a Swiss clock. This team is a Swiss clock. It's this is probably one of the only team in Europe with the bench as good as a starter. So basically, when they do that change at the 60 minutes, they bring almost 3 international off and 3 international in. I think they'll cover the cap. There is no way I'll put a single euro on Glasgow Plus on this one.
Yeah, I think another shows you. I mean, I'm sure if the conditions are great, I'm on the minus. But when the minuses go over 20 and there is rain, I get very nervous. But I want to if the teams come out and I think it's going to be strong teams, like you say. I just don't see where Glasgow hold this team out. I don't know, even in the rain. You're right that those forwards will ramble that Glasgow team close to the line. So yeah, you're right. Covering it is, but yeah, if it is really bad, like it's pelting down and sideways rain, of course I would rethink about it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the Glasgow under as well, depending of the weather and how much point they give them, because I see really at the one side game,
Yeah.
Frank, that's exactly what I was going to say. When there's a big handicap and the weather goes bad, then I normally look at unders on the underdog. So in other words, in this particular case, it would be Glasgow going unders, even if it's somewhere around 13.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Assuming the weather's bad. Otherwise, I'll be looking at the minus as well. So it could be quite a good strategy, that one. Frank, we'll stay with you, though. We're getting towards the end of this long fixture list. And we've got Racing 92. This is also on Sunday against Connacht. And here we've got the French team minus 16.5. Remind me, were they favourites? Were they finalists last year? And I think they played in the final, if I can remember correctly, or they made it pretty deep.
I think they lost in final. You're correct. Final or semi-final. Sorry. Yeah, my memory is fading. But yeah, I mean, they are targeting if there is one French team targeting the Champions Cup, it's probably I would say two of them. It's probably Toulouse and Racing. But if I have to pick one, is Racing. Racing want to be European champion. This is what their president wants. They are building the team around that. They have also built a lot of depth, a lot of young players now playing on the French team. It's a very good team, very consistent. They won in Bordeaux last weekend with some kind of B team on the pitch, but plenty of experience. This is a game that's going to be played. It's an indoor game. Racing play indoor, so plastic pitch indoor, so no wind, no problem with rain. Connacht has been a decent team, but I don't think they are good enough for the Champions Cup. Racing is going to go for 5 points here. 16 is quite a big handicap, but I think that it can easily be a 40-15 type of game, So I'll probably aim toward a Racing minus here.
Well, before I bring Chris in there, Mike just commenting, San Diego Legion, his hometown, has just signed Henkes van Wyk. Any South African opinions? Now, the first thing I want to say to you, Mike, is tonight's show, I think it's because we're talking Champions Cup, some of our South African boys don't appear to be on. We seem to have mainly guys from Europe and even America, so I don't know. We'll get it, but I'm definitely going to refer this one to Brendan Wessels, the conductor, because he'll obviously watch the recording of the show tomorrow, and I'll get his opinion. And we'll certainly get you an opinion on that one, and perhaps stick it below in the comments there. Be interesting to hear. But Chris, getting your opinion on the Racing handicap 16.5.
Yeah, well, I got it. I put a bet, a unit on Connacht Plus. I got it at plus 18 though when it came out. I thought when it came out that looked very high. I like Connacht. They've been doing really well for me this season. I like the play. They'll get some players back as well. Yes, Racing at home is strong. Brady actually pointed out that teams visiting that Racing stadium and pitch seem to struggle the first time they arrive. So that's probably going to go against Connacht, and that's a very good point. So I put a bet on it. It wasn't a big one, but when the 18 came out, I put a unit on it just to cover that because I thought it was a good cap. It has gone down, but I'm not going to be putting any more on that, to be honest, because Racing is dangerous and Racing probably are hungry. But I have a little bet on the plus 18.
Right, let's move on to the final Champions Cup game of the weekend. Munster up against Harlequins, Chris. 10.5 Munster favourite.
So say it again, Pope.
Minus 10.5 Munster.
Yeah. This is another unit player I put in early doors on Harlequins Plus. Harlequins was also a team I never liked, never fancied, didn't like their players, but I am a fan of Gustard actually. I do like what he does, and I actually have seen Harlequins slowly build. And they are starting to look like his team now. Marcus Smith is playing amazingly. I know Esterhuizen's out, who's probably quite key for them. But when I look at these two teams, to me, they're evenly matched teams. Yes, Munster are at home for sure, but at the moment, to me, they're evenly matched. Maybe Munster slight favourites, but definitely not 10 points favourites. So Harlequins plus 10 was quite a confidence strike for me when I put it on.
Frank, your thoughts on this one?
I'm with Chris on this one. I think Harlequins have a pretty good team. They're getting a few players back as well. A lot of confidence. I mean, yeah, Marcus Smith, what a player. I still don't believe why he's not international. England international. He's probably played too fancy and good rugby for that. But yeah, I think the Queens can definitely hold the cap. Again, all these games are a bit difficult because we still need to wait the exact lineup. But I think both teams will go with their best team. So if that's the case, if the weather is a bit humid as well, like I can expect, with the current forecast in Europe. Harlequins have a relatively strong pack. I don't think they'll be destroyed by the Munster one. They'll score points. They have good players. They have good backline, probably better backline than the Munster one. So yeah, I'll go definitely with the 10 plus on that one.
They beat Gloucester last week by 13 with 13 men, and were putting tries away still. They just look like a team on the up, aren't they? So that's why I didn't like them up until the start of probably the beginning of the season. But towards the end, they started to turn around and they started to win games that I was like, okay, they shouldn't win. So quite like it. But yeah, Munster at home, but I think 10 points, I'll take those 10 points every day of the week.
Right, well, let's move on. We'll just touch on the Challenge Cup, guys, before we come into the best bets. Now, I know, Frank, you were saying that the Challenge Cup, there's hardly any betting up because the bookmakers in this particular competition have learnt the hard way. They've got to wait for team selection. Some of the teams not taking it seriously. But I do see that Friday's lines are up. We've got 3 matches taking place on Friday. Yeah. And Chris, I'll just ask you, any of them catch your eye? Anything in the Challenge Cup at all at this point?
I have not looked at any Challenge Cup. I've got, a little bit today, actually, for tomorrow's games, not for the rest of the weekend. So when team news came out today, Caps went crazy because we had Benetton at +6 that moved down to 2. I think we had Leicester at -13 that's now at -22 when this team news came out. And Falcons they were at +5, I believe, but they're also not playing Flood and Barrel, some key players, which really
the whole team is bench. It's there is not a single player retained.
Yeah,
so
it stunned me because I would have said Newcastle for sure, but Cardiff in this tournament, they're getting players back. So I would have taken Leicester minus all day, but it's moved, so it's gone. So if you want to take it at -22, maybe Frank can fill out more about French team news. Because of that Falcons team news, I'm staying out, even though I would have been on the Falcons. But I'm just shocked that they didn't play the team that I thought they would play. Francais Benetton, not for me. No, maybe I would have taken the +6 when it was on offer, but I'll stay out of it now. But that's just my views. Very weird day watching these caps move drastically.
Yeah, you got to be careful on these tournaments. Mark just coming in. I haven't seen a cap on this yet, but he's saying Bayonne to slaughter Zebre. I mean, Zebre, I don't know if they're going to be any stronger side than played Munster, but I had a nice win on Munster -36.5 a few weeks ago against Zebre. But Frank, just yourself briefly on the Challenge Cup, anything catch your eye at this stage?
Yeah, I'll be quick, and I think we spoke about that before the show. The odds came out 2 hours after the lineup, which is unique, in rugby. There is no other competition doing that. I think the books are scared, but even with that, most of the game moved by at least 3 or 5 points instantly in 10-15 minutes. So I took an early Benetton +6.5 because Stade Français is lining up a very young team, but not a bad team. They have a lot of former U21 world champion playing. I will look at the weather. The weather is going to be probably bad, but Benetton is going with their best team. Still slightly fancy Trevis on this one, but with a higher cap. Otherwise, I think at that odd, it's probably the well set. Leicester is going to destroy Brive. I think there is no question about that. Brive is not sending a complete C team, let's say a relatively average team, but Leicester is playing with a relatively big team. And the bench, look at the bench, all the international players on the bench. When they'll get in, to get some game time under the belt, I think they want to build on confidence. This is going to be a very significant Leicester win. I personally, as a bet, I did a parlay using Leicester by 13 plus. So basically, I'm not going to the 20 cap, but I'm going, and I parlay that with Cardiff on the board. The Falcons are actually playing. So you were mentioning a few players. If you look at the last week's starting 15, none of these players are playing. You will find 4 or 5 of them on the bench, but they feel a complete English team. So basically, I think most of the players are English players, a lot of local players. I'm not saying it's a bad team. To be fair, some of the players I never heard about, but I mean, they are a surprising team, but I will not go that far. Cardiff, again, putting money in Cardiff away is always it's not the easiest things to do, but they go with a relatively strong team. Huh? They have most of the international player back. This is a competition they fancy playing. Cardiff, they like to play the challenge. They have a very strong bench as well. So, for example, if there is an early Falcon start, first try, very good game to probably bet live and back the Blues to come back. Their bench is very strong on the Blues as well. So I think it's going to be. I still see them winning. In Newcastle. I will have a look at the weather. If it's not raining, it's an artificial pitch. In general, when you have a lot of rotation in the team like that, it could be high scoring stuff. So I think the cap is at 41 now. So I guess heavy rain expected. But to have a look at. So that's probably what I have now, and the other game is absolutely unpredictable, But expect most of the French team to send really their B team. I don't, especially with that, this every year in Challenge Cup, most of the French team don't play it. But this year, with the more compact calendar, and a lot of games that needs to be played, without break, I can tell you 100%. All the French team are going to try that competition.
Right. Okay. That definitely sounds like we should be treading carefully there in the Challenge Cup. But, if it's televised on TV and I've got nothing better to do, I'll certainly be having a punt, I can tell you guys. Let's get on to the best bets, though. And Frank, let's start with yourself. What's your best bet of the weekend? And then maybe a couple of supporting acts.
So not one really above all the others, but I will go with the Cheetahs, I will go with the Sharks, and I will go with the Saints plus for now. These are what I fancy and I like, and I'll keep an eye on my Edinburgh plus as well as a potential bet, and the must-watch game Ulster to lose with a beer.
Okay, and Chris, your best bet?
I would like to have known the points lines for now for the Cheetahs and the Sharks game, because barring weather, I'll be over on the Cheetahs Lions games and unders on the Bulls game. And if it comes, like you said, if it comes around 47, 48, I'll be unders there. Those will be my strongest plays when that comes around. On the caps, definitely, I'm really happy with my Bath -8 and my Harlequins +10. Really happy with those. But because there's so many close games there, I think I'm going to enjoy putting a few parlays and treble teasers together this weekend, and I think they'll be quite decent. If you can get a few decent high plus handicaps on some of these close games, you can probably get some good value on those. So I'll be putting a few of those together and sharing them with the guys over the weekend if anyone was interested. But those would be my strongest thoughts for the weekend.
Excellent, good stuff, lads. Well, I'll be having a listen to the show again and coming up with my best bet. Last week I actually went with my own pick, the Lions +3.5 against Western Province, and in the end they did, as per the preview pick, actually won at 13-10. I didn't get to see that because I was playing the poker. I'm not overly confident on anything at the moment, but you guys certainly pointed me in the right direction. I would like to see some points lines on the Currie Cup as well, like Chris. And if anything, I'm leaning towards a good showing from Western Province. I'm going to be finding a way to support them, whether that means going unders, Pumas points, but I don't think so. I think I'm probably going to be looking at perhaps a Western Province overplay. Although they're probably going to be sitting somewhere around 34.5 points there for a Province play.
I think the first, what I saw in Betfair, they were at 40, and I think they're going to get 40, but that would be too high for me. I think because Province could easily get about 38. It could be like a 38-10 game, but at the same time, my gut is telling me, like you, I think they might put the Pumas away by 50 even. We'll put 50 on the board. Pumas might score 20. But Province will put 50, but I need to sleep on that.
Excellent. Well, the boys in the chat just discussing Pat Lam, and it's quite interesting because Pat Lam, I know he's highly rated as a coach now, but there was a time where Pat Lam coached the Blues in New Zealand. And my word, the Blues were absolutely terrible. And I still said when Pat Lam left the Blues, I said, that guy's never going to make it in Europe. And now he's done absolutely superbly well. It just shows you've got to be careful about writing guys off. But Chris, thanks very much. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me. And Frank, the same to you. Look forward to seeing you on the Good for the Game forum and on Twitter. And to all the boys in the live chat, thanks a lot, guys. Hope you have a good punting weekend. Do subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't done so yet. And we'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,